Welcome to the Rugby Biz podcast. It's a Friday podcast. We're here to look at last week's rugby, round five of the Rugby Championship, the first round of the URC, the Rugby World Cup final, and also preview what is happening this weekend. I'm here with Shaun. It was a crazy week trying to just get everyone together, but we are finally here. And yeah, ready to talk some rugby now. Yeah, Shaun, obviously, this weekend is the final round of the Rugby Championship. The Springboks are in a really good position, like essentially with their points difference and bonus points and everything like that. I mean, they should be favorites. It's good that though that the Boks are. I mean, everything that they've been saying in the camp this week is that they're treating this like a final, and they're going to try to approach it that way, and also just put. We'll talk about last week's performance, but put at the back of their mind like what happened in Durban last weekend.
Yeah, sure. If the Bucks lose it from here, then it'll be exceptionally disappointing. I think to say they're the favorites is an understatement. I think especially that the game is in London. Like if it was in Argentina, I'd be a little bit nervous because just the travel and Argentina playing at home, like they can seriously upset you. So yeah, we're looking good, mostly unchanged. The thought process behind that from Rassi was he doesn't what 2 days of training in London is all they had, so he wanted to keep everything the same, and that's also unusual for us. Like we're so used to seeing such big changes to teams,
Yeah.
especially towards the end of the Rugby Championship, when we play Argentina home and away. Like there's often changes and planned sort of things that happen. So this is cool. It's quite exciting, a bit of continuity, a little bit weird seeing it as a Springbok fan. Like we're so used to seeing multiple changes and all that, but yeah, it's pretty exciting. And coming off the back of last week's performance, the boys must be pretty pumped.
Yeah, so let's talk about last week's performance. So, I mean, I think we sort of did the switch. I was watching the World Cup final, you're watching the Springbok game. So I remember checking my phone and it was like, what, 30-30 or something like that after half time. And I was like, that's quite high scoring. And I'm sure the Bucks are disappointed that it's still tight, but I mean, not too unexpected because, Argentina can sort of go up a few notches when they want to. And then I think I caught maybe the third or the 20th Sacha try, the one where he dummied everyone. And then you check the thing at the end after the World Cup presentation. I was just like, how did we get to 67-30? Which is pretty much the question I want to ask you, Shaun. Like, mm, this was just a crazy game, it seemed like bit helter-skelter at the start, a lot of some crazy errors, I think, from both teams. I mean, the Ches and Colby dropouts, for example, and then just some brilliant play. And I mean, we'll get to the main man at the moment, but like just yeah, why, question mark, question mark, question mark.
That first half was batshit crazy. That first half could have been a game on its own, just the way that it ended with Sacha chatting to the ref and saying, "Listen, there's 4 seconds left. We want to restart." It was just wild. Like one of those, like at halftime, you're kind of just sitting there and you're like, I can't really unpack this. At halftime, you kind of go through, like mentally, you go through the half and you figure out like what's happening, what's going on. This was just, as you say, just question marks everywhere. It was crazy. Like everyone needed that break, all the fans. And then it was kind of a case of going into the second half and we don't really know what to expect. That was also quite strange. Like you kind of like, I don't really know what to do and how to do it. A few of those tries were just wild. The obviously the Argentina try off Chessy's error is crazy. Then us scoring a try afterwards, like Sasha's kick ahead, it was wild. And yeah, it was interesting. There was a massive drive with the Springboks. The Springboks you really got that feeling like they were, you can do whatever you want, but we're going to score more points than you. That's almost how it felt, like Harlequins of 3 seasons ago when they won the Premiership. And then that second half happened, and they had the same sort of vibes. Like the halftime was there. It didn't take away our intensity. What it did do was allowed us to maybe just tighten up a few spaces, get Rusty and the coaching staff to chat to the guys and be like, listen, we're a little bit loose here, or this is what we need to do, or we see issues there. And then we just kicked it on. And Sacha was ridiculous. Like he was seeing stuff far ahead. He had stuff planned a long time before he did it. The other thing is I actually didn't realize how fast he is. Like he's blitz.
Jeez.
He's a big ball carrier. Like yeah. And it was very interesting. I loved it. I think, like, obviously everyone's talking about Sacha and, comparing him to Dan Carter and all of this sort of stuff. We are in such an amazing position at the moment as Springbok fans with our three fly halves. We've got options all over the show. We've got two of those fly halves can play in the same team. Like you could possibly have Sacha at 15 and Andre at 10, or one of the two of them at 12. Like, and then we've got Mani who can come on, and I think we all still agree that Mani, like his accuracy and how he delivers things is probably a little bit better than everyone else. Like I'm just saying that so we don't need to get rid of Mani.
Yeah.
He's just like he's also coming into his own, I think is probably what I'm trying to say. Like
Mm.
so yeah, but that game was wild. That first 40 minutes was just ridiculous. The other thing I want to say is we literally have an opportunity to field from 10 to 15 field players that can play test match midfield. We can play uh, Sacha at 10, Damien at 12, Jesse at 13, Moody at 14, Hook at 15, and who are we going to play at 15? Someone maybe Sacha at 15 and move another player around. But Willemse, that's right. So we can literally field a full back line, barring the nine of midfield
Of
players.
midfielders.
The numberless back line. Eddie Jones is freaking out that he couldn't do it, but that was always his plan from like 2 years ago or 3 years
Yeah.
ago, remember?
Yeah.
So
Now just needing a wing to play at flank. Oh, Rassi has already done that. Um, so yeah, let's just talk about Sacha-mania. I mean, it's running wild at the moment. Like 37 points on last week Saturday's game. So that's the most points by a Springbok in a test match. So he has that record now. A hat trick of tries, which is actually ridiculous. And just this like normal stats in the game. He had the most meters, 134 meters. He had the most defenders beaten. He made the most breaks. He had the most carries, which is strange for a fly half. I mean, yeah, I would prefer that if doesn't have that. He also made the most kicks. I mean, South Africa, I think something that gets lost in talking about this game is that South Africa had kicked 40 times in the game. And obviously, there's a lot of attacking kicks which worked out for the Boks. I mean, Sacha sort of kicking and chasing it himself, the cross kick to Jason Colby. So he kicked 15 times. So he carried 13 times, he kicked 15 times, he passed 6 times. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned like people like sort of putting it in the same sentence as the Dan Carter '05 performance. I think it's not that, yeah, I mean, it's hard to compare one and the other. I mean, I can see where people are coming from with that, like just that complete fly-off performance from minute 1 to minute 80, where he kind of just takes over all aspects of the game. And I think something that gets lost even with the Carter performance then was that was obviously a young Carter where he was one of the faster players on the field, where he was one of the most physical players on the field, where he could do anything and everything, where that's where Sacha is right now. He's the fastest. He's at his strongest. Like he can do all of those things, and it's it just puts such another bow to the arsenal for the Springboks and for the Stormers as well. Like you have an attacker that is just able to do whatever he wants in a game, and I saw someone say like Sacha plays like he's the main character in a movie. Like he knows like it's going to work out for him. He knows he's going to win at the end. Like he knows like whatever he can do, he can do it. And if that means chasing a attempted 50-22 by himself and getting the ball and telling Moody, don't take the ball, I'll take the ball. Like that's what he is. So yeah, just an insane performance. And I mean a big delivery in I think a potential that people have been seeing for years now. It's just difficult to be like, what's like even for this Saturday, what is the second act from here? Like, obviously, I think it'd be crazy if he could do something similar. But yeah, I wonder what he's aiming for, maybe what the coaches are aiming for this weekend to be like, okay, you've kind of followed this up with, maybe a more conservative performance or more solid performance, or just being like, hey, Sasha, you're on a roll, cook, do whatever you want.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I've had a big think about it. I know I spoke about it a little while ago, but like I don't before this weekend, like I didn't see Sasha playing with the 100 because Sasha really needs to be in control of everything. That's almost like his big thing. Like
Yeah,
like we saw Willemse. The best example is Willie Leroux. How many times have we seen Willie Leroux when the Bulls or the Boks or anyone is down, where Willie is the one that's like trying to do everything and he's throwing a long pass and it doesn't always come off. That's that's how I see this. But then you'd kind of like we've got a player that's talented, big enough, fast enough, and got the vision to
yeah,
play heads up rugby, and do it. It's going to be when sides are going to start setting traps for him. That's going to be interesting to see how he manages it. But he's he's got a great kick pass run game in that he doesn't mind taking contact. It's not like if he gets up against like a flank and a lock that he's going to shy away from trying to steamroll them. Like he's happy to take that. So there's that. The big thing for me on Saturday was that like Peter Steph du Toit, Damian Willemse, and Archie Snyman all made more passes than him. So that's quite interesting. But like to say that the Springbok, like to say that what he did on Saturday is not good enough and is not sustainable, I don't necessarily agree with it. What I do want to see is the maturity of playing with everyone else if you become under pressure,
mm,
which he hasn't ever done anything to show that he really can't do that either. You know what I mean? Like he will definitely try it out a little bit. And the Springboks have got such a great setup. There's so much experience around and leadership that they can say to him, "Listen, cool. Like it's not working. Like if it's properly on, then go. But just pass, kick for the corners. Like I believe we've got that much there." And I don't believe that for a second that he's going to go in and be like, everyone just, I've got this. I'll do whatever I want,
yeah,
what I see fit, as opposed to not playing the game plan.
yeah,
So what it does do is having a player like Sasha at 10, even at 15, but at 10, let's say, it frees up a Grant Williams on the inside because you are literally going to be eyes on Sasha. So now we're sitting at a ruck or open play where you've got to watch his inside man because the guy can run 100 in an Olympic time if he needs, and he's got a great step. Then on the outside, you have the likes of Delendi or Willemse at 12, Moody or Creel at 13, all big viable options that can make gain line. Like
yeah,
it changes everything. And then it's the same conversation we had about Grant Williams, how he keeps everyone honest. Faf de Klerk did in the beginning as well. Like it's a great space to be in. And I don't for a second feel that the Springbok coaches, the players, or even Sasha is going to be like, cool, I'm just going to take the torch and do everything I want to do. That's not how we operate. Like Rassie and the Springbok coaches are really big picture. Like they really are big picture. And they go in and they pick out the little intricacies of so many things, but they are big picture as well. And yeah, it's quite exciting. But you're right. I think everyone wants to see what he brings this weekend. And I think it's going to be more fireworks.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting how like we've this rugby championship has gone from the first test when we were like kick to pass ratio was like 1 in 12, And now in this test where we scored 67 points, it's 123.2. So we've, I think, found the balance of, it's that old saying, and that, I mean, obviously more applies to cricket than rugby. Like you have to earn the right to go wide, and you have to sort of build the innings before you could then, start slogging. And I think the Boks now are finding that balance of, okay, use our kick pressure game. I mean, use the likes of Hooker and Colby, like for those up and unders, use it as a way to put pressure on the opposition, force them into mistakes. And then when you get that ball on the front foot, then you can cook and then you can really attack. And then you have like, players like Willemse and Sacha and Lebok and whoever that can really exploit the opposition. So that's, I think, probably one of the, and maybe after Saturday's game, we can sort of do a nice review of like the whole Rugby Championship. But I think that's now sort of the balance that the team has to find. And that's the nice thing about, I think, all three of the fly halves are almost coming together into, you know, Pollard's probably running a bit more than maybe he did last year. Lubbock is probably kicking a bit more than he did last year. Sasha's, you know, I think he was probably the most balanced of the three, but like he's, finding how to do that at a test level. So it's just hopefully, I think that's the thing. It's just managing the game so that like, it doesn't sort of run away from you. So yeah, I think it's great because it also puts our best players, I think, in their best positions. I think, when you see like the stats from like the likes of Visa and Peter Steph Toy about how many carries they got and like the opportunities that they got from that. And yeah, I mean, using the forward pack that the Boks have, they really are able to make those impacts. They don't need to, you don't need to sort of play a wide game plan. I mean, you have the people that can just go through the guts in the middle and then be able to set up and suck everyone in and then go out wide. So it's just another dynamic that's been added to this team. So it's really exciting to see for this weekend.
The other thing is like there's Springbok fans, rugby fans, to be fair, but Springbok fans are big. Like I saw a lot of people saying, "Oh, Delendi was missing on Saturday, and we need to replace him." There's often talk about Jasper Visser, like he's still people struggle to respect him and what he does, but we cannot. The one thing that I'm willing to die on this hill, it is not sustainable for us to have a full-on backline or full-on team that is just all about being wide and hitting the gaps and no one's really grafting.
Yeah.
That is the one thing. Like we do not see Sia Kolisi and Peter Steph Toy play like they've played for the last two games without Jasper Visser there.
Yeah.
That's what people need to understand. Like you may not see what he does like in a game the way that you've on like that in scratch test initially where you see Khaleesi out wide and Peter Steph out wide taking kicks. That stuff doesn't happen if you don't have a big tight eight. And the same with the backs. Like when you have like Delendi who basically just runs unders lines almost all the time,
Yeah.
and he always sucks in 2 to 3 players. Like that opens up. Like that's front football. We've got good cleaners and we've got fast distribution out of that. Then all of a sudden everyone can be picking the gaps and play heads up rugby. So, that's really, really key. Like Visser, I've already had a mate message me and he's just like, listen, I was wrong about Visser. Like he shut me up big time. I'm glad that it's coming out because Visser has been huge for us. Huge. Like literally, not only in what he does how we need a Springbok 8 like to run in a game, but what he does in terms of balancing that loose trio and freeing up everyone to do their best bit of their game on either side of him is huge for us.
Yeah. So this weekend's team, unchanged 15, well, except for Oxenchair coming back into the starting lineup after he was ruled out like the day before for Juan Fenter. Few changes to the bench. So the return of Bongi Bonambi, which is great to see. He's playing as a reserve hooker. Wessels does his prop hooker dance and now is back to prop this weekend. And you also have Jesse Creel that's on the bench for Andre Esthuizen as the third backline player, and Grant Williams also on the bench as well. Yeah, I mean, like you said earlier, Sean, like there wasn't really much opportunity to make changes. It's funny though that the Argentinians on the other side, they've made quite a few changes, a lot of it enforced. So Like some Albanos are injured. Garcia's also injured, so they had to make a few changes there. But they have Geronimo Prisciantelli that's playing at the fly half. He plays for Zebre usually. He's in his mid 20s. Like I would say he's probably better at fullback than fly half, so that's quite interesting. But he's getting opportunity. You have Picardo that's also in the centers getting opportunity as well. I guess there is an element of Contepomi. He's kind of taken the other route, and I mean Argentina is the side that mathematically can't win the rugby championship at the moment. So I guess he's kind of taken this more as a free hit. So yeah, I mean, the thing though is it's not you still can't be like, okay, Argentina has a young side, that means it's gonna be an easy game because I mean, some of these players played against the Lions and they were the ones that surprised the Lions a few months back. So, I think it's for the box, it's just about, just settling and getting their hooks into the game. So maybe a bit less like last week of it being helter-skelter, but kind of trying to control the pace and the tempo of the game and just dominating and using sort of the forwards just to really establish themselves in the game. And then things will open up later for them to take opportunities for it.
Yeah, I think it's just got to be a little bit wary of an Argentinian 10 that plays in Italy because everyone is like, who's this Albanos kid? And then he went and tore it up. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But listen, I think there are few weaknesses or unknowns, but unknowns in favor of the Springboks on the Puma side, where I think we'll be able to target. So yeah, it's looking good. I think it's very much a case of if we focus on number one, if we focus on ourselves and are accurate in doing what we need to do, it'll literally come. Like
Yeah.
I don't think Argentina, if we are accurate, will be able to outplay us, outmuscle us, disrupt us enough that we won't score tries. So I think that's really key. Argentina, on the other hand, are going to be like, cool, we'll put them under pressure. If they make mistakes, we need to capitalize and then hopefully put the pressure on that way. That's how I see it happening.
Yeah. So Argentina also just going for a 6-2 bench like they did last week. So, I mean, also some really strong players coming off their bench. I mean, Molina, Gonzalez, Oviedo, Isgro. So obviously there's some impact there. But yeah, I mean, that game's at 3 o'clock. It's at Twickenham. Obviously, I mean, something that's been mentioned, I think, by the Springboks and the press is don't think it's just going to be an all green affair in Twickenham. Like, there's a lot of Argentinian and Spanish people on that side of the world as well. So I think it should be quite a festive atmosphere. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
with the Rugby Championship, except for the New Zealand-Australia game, most games there's no neutral, like almost 50-50 support or even 70-30. So this one will be probably the most like balanced support that's probably ever been a Rugby Championship game.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be great. Like I thought about it and it's actually such a cool thing. Like I feel for Argentina if they lose a home game. Like I'll
Yeah.
be honest with that. But I think both sides are benefiting very nicely financially. I
Yeah.
also think it's a great kind of change up and also a little bit of a mini prep for November. The guys will get to go and kind of be there and see the vibes. But I think
Yeah.
it's going to be a good sort of festive attitude atmosphere all round, and it's going to be basically like a sevens tournament. Like it's basically be one big party in that stadium, I
Yeah.
feel.
I mean, some of the players, especially for like the URC teams, they might as well just stay in Europe because like the Bulls and Stormers are going to join now in Europe for the next few weeks, and then it's pretty much the November international. So yeah, I think some people must maybe just rent out a house there in London for the next few months or next few weeks. Let's go to the Bledisloe 2 game. So New Zealand beat Australia in the first Bledisloe Cup game, 33 points to 24. An interesting game because there was moments where the New Zealand were really in control. And while, yes, there was moments where it felt like Australia was kind of coming back, fair play to New Zealand. I think, especially when, those last 20 minutes where it did look like, okay, Australia's now back. There's only a few points in it. They really controlled that last 20 minutes and didn't really give Australia many opportunities. And Australia were the ones making the mistakes and not, not capitalizing on opportunities that they got from New Zealand. So it didn't feel like this wave of points that Australia has been known to do in this rugby championship so far. Um, so on the New Zealand side, I think the main story is just how much they missed and need Cam Roigard. Like he just adds such an element to their game. I think not only is he definitely the best box kicker in New Zealand, maybe in the Southern Hemisphere. Like his ability to box kick was putting Australia and their back three under pressure after obviously weeks of us talking about the New Zealand back three is under pressure. They can't really catch a high ball to save their lives. And then obviously his ability to run and pass just means that you're either gonna sort of squash up and try to stop him from sniping, and then he can sort of do those long passes like almost Gibson Park level, like long passes. Or if you leave that space for him around the racks, he's gonna snipe and take advantage of it. Like he's clearly one of maybe five, 4 or 5 like world-class players that New Zealand has right now. And he really makes a difference to them.
He is huge. The thing is you're starting to see now where the All Blacks are struggling in terms of individual skills
Mm,
across the side. Like we are so used to like soldier in, soldier out with New Zealand. Like if they lose Aaron Smith, then TJ Perenara comes in. Like you know what I mean? And what has happened is they're kind of struggling. They're trying to find that. So they very clearly have in most positions, I'll say, a first choice 15. And then after that, it's really like who's going to happen. Like they don't have, like for argument's sake, you're not going to have a big game where Roigard doesn't start.
yeah,
They're not going to bench him. You like, and so that's where I think Razor's going to be struggling moving forward, and New Zealand as well. So they need to bring the level of the other guys up a little bit. Listen, Roigard is ridiculously talented. So I'm not saying it's easy to get players up to that sort of level, but you're going to have to try and bridge that gap.
mm,
You can't. Razor's big on in the beginning, like not using his bench, which was wild. But this is a 30-man game kind of thing. It's so important to have those guys, those non-playing reserves involved the whole week, and then obviously you need your entire bench. So if you want to be competitive, you're going to have to sort of find that out. Razor his hasn't found his first choice 23.
no,
Like he's probably got like 12 players that he will select as first choice. The rest is a little bit of a lottery. It's a bit of a, am I going to move this guy here, do this? Maybe he benches, maybe he doesn't.
mm,
That's quite weird, especially for New Zealand and especially for a coach of New Zealand that has been in the job long enough that you'd expect him to have more sort of stability.
yeah. I think it's such a weird thing because there's some games where it looks like, okay, this player or this combination seems to be working. So a good example from this game is Quinn Tupaia. So last few weeks he hasn't really been making an impact. I know he scored essentially the winning try in Eden Park in the Springbok game. But it didn't seem like he was making that much of an impact. Like obviously he's a big boy, he can carry well, but it didn't feel like he made that much of a difference from the bench. But then this weekend, he almost changed the game essentially for New Zealand, and was so key in getting them those last few scores for them to put this game in the bag. And now you're like, okay, Quinton Pye can now be an option. Now he's playing 13 this weekend, and I think Proctor. It looks like Proctor's essentially been dropped because it doesn't seem like he's injured or whatever the case is. So you're like, okay, Tupaya now seems to be a name that is maybe in that, like you said, that 30-man or 23-man sort of situation. But you still haven't really solved the outside center situation. And now Lester Fainga'anuku comes in, and Tupaya and Fainga'anuku are, I think they'll probably be interchanging between the two of them because, Tupai has been playing more wing for the All Blacks, so he's probably more comfortable there than 13. And Leicester obviously has been playing a lot of 13 for Toulon since he left New Zealand. So it's, yeah, like as it's like a 1 step or 2 steps forward, 3 steps back type of team right now where some things start coming together. and you're like, okay, this could come together, this could sort of make a bit of sense. And maybe, yeah, it also needs like a bigger, sort of wider outlook. And you're like, okay, well, we do actually have three or four props that we can trust. Maybe they're not all in good form right now, but Lomax to Groot, etc. Locks are looking pretty good with Holland and Tupelotu, and Tupavai's pretty much been probably their best player this season. There's something happening with their loose forwards, like with Parker coming in, and Karifi was pretty good when he was there. Nakai is now an option. So it's kind of coming together, but not really, because I think they have I would say they have 30 players, but I don't necessarily think they have them sorted in a 23 that makes sense right now.
No, you're right. Like it's just weird and disruptive. And yeah, I've just
And I
seen
mean,
now that
I was
the
just going to
All
say
Blacks,
also the injuries just happened at the wrong time. So now Caleb Clark plays a good game. Now he's out. And, they had the scrum off crisis and this crisis and that one.
and now they got a lock crisis because I've just seen now that Tupavai misses out this weekend. Fabian Holland
Mm.
starts, and Patrick Tuipulotu's on the bench. So there's another late change there. Like there's a lot of disruption happening. I think like all of this confusion about what Razor wants and the players and how he wants things, and then you have these other unplanned things that are thrown in that I think sort of help his struggle. But yeah, yeah, it's such a weird. Like I think most people could probably pick an All Black squad, like 32 player squad. I
Yeah.
think you could probably pick that pretty accurately, and I reckon we could mostly. I think if you ask 10 guys to name a starting 15, I think you'd probably get like eight different teams because they're like that's the thing. Like nobody really knows. And the worst part about it doesn't even look like Razor properly knows.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we'll see. Like he's retained the Bledisloe, that's massive. He's got a chance to win the Rugby Championship. He needs a few things to go his way.
Yeah.
Like maybe it buys him a few more months. I think November's going to be really tough for him, to be honest. Like they were supposed to have a shitty one last year, and they pulled out really well.
Yeah.
This year, I think will be quite different.
Yeah. Just looking at who are they actually playing in November quickly. So they've got the Island game in the US, then it's Scotland, then England, then Wales. I mean, to be fair to them, that's not a bad November roster. Like, you're probably not going to get Ireland at their best because it's out of the test window and all that sort of stuff. And you've been playing test matches, they haven't. And then yeah, like England's obviously going to be difficult. Scotland, Wales. I mean, yes, New Zealand not necessarily at their best, but like Scotland and Wales especially haven't really been threatening. So yeah, I mean, this could be like if they win their fourth game, even if they're like a point off of winning the rugby championship, and then it's feasible that they get all four wins. Like it looks pretty good now. It's weird because I was listening to Jamie Wall on the Ignite combo, and he was saying like Razor's doing like a stealth, very slow drip rebuild. So like slowly but surely, Holland gets a few caps, and Satiti gets a few caps, and Leon Carter gets a few caps. So because he's pretty much started with, Ian Foster's team and has made one change every four games, it feels like. So yeah, I think the disappointment from obviously us watching the Crusaders and Scott Robertson and what he's done in that level is we thought by now, year two, this team would be sort of gangbusters and be competing for like best in the world, and that's just not been the case. On the other hand, with the Wallabies, I didn't really, yeah, the game plan on Saturday didn't make sense. Like, they only kicked 12 times. Like, I get what they're doing with like playing their attack tight, and they're really good at the tight sort of stuff. Like, they get themselves over the advantage line, they get quick ball, they sort of build that momentum, like similar to like when we talk about the Canadian women's team. Like, they can sort of get on top of you with like really good carries, and then the opportunity opens up. But it just didn't seem like they had a chance, or they really then went for, okay, we've now gotten, a bit of momentum. Let's get the ball to O'Connor or to Edmund or whoever, and then sort of go wide. Um, so yeah, it was just a game that didn't really have that much Swali, didn't really have that much from their wings as well. It just, yeah, it felt like a wasted opportunity because, obviously this Bledisloe Cup curse goes for another year. Now I mean, it's old enough to vote. It can buy a house now. Like, yeah, it's probably got a wife and kids at this moment.
Yeah, it's weird for something that's so big. Like the greatest of respect to like the Freedom Cup and all that. Like the Bledisloe Cup is massive.
Yeah,
Like it's huge. It matters. Like it's the kind of thing that you could win the Bledisloe and you could lose every game in November and it wouldn't matter because
yeah,
you won the Bledisloe. Like that's how important it is. To um, have it that a side is challenging has to win both games when there's only two games. It's a bit weird. They used to have a third game outside the Rugby Championship that was involved in the Bledisloe. Like I'm all for that. I think best of three is great. But if not, then you can go with aggregate points over the two, you know? And yeah, it's just a bit weird. The other thing I think where the Wallabies did get stuck on Saturday was James O'Connor didn't have his greatest game at 10.
no,
Um, and I really like I still don't think he should be dropped. Like he just had a bad game. Um, and unfortunately when you're at 10 and you're missing those kicks to touch and you're just not being accurate in your general performance, it matters big time. Like the microscope's on you. So I really feel James O'Connor probably cost the Wallabies a better foothold in the game in the beginning, and they struggled to really get back. They were fighting hard for something, and then when they got it, it was pissed away because of a bad kick or something. So that's a bit frustrating. And the thing is, we've seen that from we've seen it in the Sharks, we've seen it in the Springboks. Like we've seen how those moments really impact a team, especially when they're kind of down and out or on their way up again or really fighting outside their weight category. Um, so I feel that was like probably the game would have been a lot closer for a lot longer, had O'Connor had a better game, but it would have how the result would have gone, I don't know. But the one thing the Wallabies are super happy to fight it out for the whole game. They've got the ability to do that. But they did their comeback in early as opposed to the second half. So that was also weird.
yeah,
Um,
like
yeah,
mid first half, they do their acts that they do in the last 20 usually.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I also think I mean, obviously, Tate McDermott got injured, but in hindsight, having him, I think he's great off the bench. I know, like, they didn't, I mean, it looks like Nick White wasn't picked. I don't know, because it doesn't sound like he's injured.
He's retired.
Is he retired now, or
He's
half?
retired, but he has been brought back into the Wallaby camp this week to assist with training. This poor guy, like, yeah,
I
he's
mean,
having,
he
imagine
can
the
play both.
conversation with his wife. That's whenever anyone's like, I'm retired, and then they're like, wait, no, I'm back. I'm like, I want to know that conversation you had with your significant other and your kids. You're like, I'm going to be home more now. I'll take you to school on Monday. Oh shit. On Sunday, I'm actually going to Sydney because I'm back working. And everyone's like, what?
Yeah, so now, I mean, speaking of retirements, James Slipper, I mean, I think he was asked if he's retiring because he's playing his last game this weekend, and he says he's not going to do a Nick White. So, I mean, he's going to end as the player of the third highest number of caps, test caps, in international rugby.
150 something
I think it's
at
151 now this
at
weekend.
prop.
Crazy.
Prop in test level. We all know props like mature later on in their career, and we're
Yeah.
used to seeing the guys go older. But to go to 151 tests and getting your ass handed to you at scrums week in and week out is quite something.
Yeah. So yeah, 36 years. He retires in 151 test caps, like 4 World Cups. Like just genuinely, obviously he was a captain for the Wallabies as well. One of the legends of Australian rugby and I mean just genuinely in international rugby as well. Like he's been such a stalwart. And he's I mean, I think it's been only better now in the last few years, but he's been sort of the only good prop in a sea of pretty average props for a while. Like only now with like Alatoa and Tupo and Bell sort of coming in, he's been like, oh, okay, I actually have some help now. Now I can actually do something instead of I'm kind of the only one holding it up. And I mean, he was probably like one of the last of like the breed of like players that played both sides as well, because he was a pretty decent tight head as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, I still can't understand how he's gone so deep. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's him, it's Alan Wynne Jones. Who's the other guy? I think that's also up there.
Obviously Eben.
Eben is, yeah, I think he's now the next one that could get to, the most ever. Was it Whitelock probably? Yeah, Sam Whitelock.
Yes, 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 yes.
So you either need to
It's
be,
all locks, eh? All
yeah.
locks. Those Oaks have it easy, eh?
They would beg to differ. I mean, I played block once, like I think in university, and geez, it really is tight on your back, like just the
I'm
way that
sure.
you're sort of pushing and scrum. So, big shout out to them. So, I mean, yeah, apart from that, a lot of change for both sides. Like obviously injuries for both teams that they're handling, but I think for the Wallabies, they have some big sort of comebacks. Like Will Skelton is starting, Jake Gordon is back. Rob Valentini is going to come off the bench. And then for the All Blacks side, like they have Scott Barrett back, but they have Damien McKenzie that's going to play 10, Leicester Fainga'anuku and Quintu Paia are in the team as well. I I mean, New Zealand just have been, allergic to having two good performances in a row. And Australia have obviously brought in these big guns and, whatever deal that they signed with La Rochelle to only get War Skelton for one test and all that sort of stuff. It's a must win for Australia, I think, because if they don't win it, they then finish the rugby championship 2 out of 6, so obviously under 50%, and finish their home games 3 out of 7, which is also under 50%. So I think for the Wallabies, and just for the sake of, okay, we are for real with this momentum that we built up the last few weeks, they need to win this game.
Yeah, like I agree. It's not a case of putting in a good performance. Like they
Yeah.
need to put in that good performance and win. Um, it's going to be big. I just want to go back onto the All Black side.
Mm.
I'm not sold on Will Jordan at 15 this
Yeah.
season. I would have actually started him on the wing and started Love at 15, and you can always move Jordan to 15 later. Unfortunately, what that means is that, well, obviously, probably then they would start Carter on the left, Jordan on the right, and Fainga'anuku would be on the bench. That would also probably be a bit more balanced considering he covers wing and midfield. But
Yeah.
um, I'd rather him play 13. But yeah, I think there's an opportunity there for Australia and they've got to just go and finish it. Like that's the thing. Like they've been putting in these moments, they've been fighting back and getting wins, or fighting back and coming close, or putting in a bad performance and then recovering relatively well, but still losing. Like it kind of needs to kick on now. I didn't realize their home, like their season and their home results were that bad. Like it's going to be a bit tough because they're not playing at home again for the rest of the year. So that's kind
Yeah.
of going to be hanging around. And then Joe leaves after this, doesn't he? Um,
I mean,
doesn't Kiss take over for November? I think he takes over for November.
yeah, but I mean, Joe Smith, I think, is on the Nick White plan of I'm retiring, but not really retiring. I could get another game, so who knows? So I I, I don't even want to try and predict what's going to happen there. But if I remember correctly, I think it is Liz Kiss's time then. I mean, it's so weird. They have a test in 3 weeks against Japan after this. So they
Wow.
they played the week before South Africa plays Japan, which is also out of the test window. So I don't know even know
It's
which
unheard of.
plays
Normally
when.
that's reserved for us versus Wales.
So yeah, they have in November, they have Japan and then England. They go back to Italy, Ireland, and France. So yeah, it's a tough November. So I think this needs to be a win. Everyone feels good. 3 out of 6 in the Rugby Championship. They won most of their home games. Then yeah, I think even if November doesn't go great and there's maybe a transition to Kiss, like you've bought yourself enough time and credit that it doesn't have to be like too disastrous. Sure, let's go to the Women's Rugby World Cup final. So England capped off, probably the most dominant run in the last 3 years, winning 33 points to 13. That's their 33rd um, match unbeaten since the last World Cup final. They, I mean, I think it was 4 games or 3 games that they won within 7 points at this time as well. Like, and I mean, look, we thought Canada was great, and I don't even think they did too many bad things, Canada necessarily. I think, just going through the game was just that Canada had chances. I think they could have put more pressure, but like, I think something that was just underrated throughout this whole tournament was how good England's defense was. And they just had a defensive masterclass. Anything that Canada threw at them, they just read. And I think it kind of helped England that they saw Canada at their best the week before. I think Squid Rugby has also made that point that like England had almost like a videotape of the Canadian practice in the week before against New Zealand, where everything was working, everything was coming off. So then, Sarah Hunter and John Mitchell, they could sort of plan and be like, okay, this is how we deal with the inside ball. This is how we deal with, the pick up and go. This is how we're going to tackle. And England just really slowed them down. Like, yes, the rucks were pretty quick, but like all the tackles were battles. Like they used double team tackles. They made Canada have to struggle to sort of get to ground, place the ball as well as possible. And it just slowed the momentum of everything. And they weren't really able to be as accurate and as efficient with their attack. And then England's forwards are just absolutely humongous. Like they were just amazing as well. So yeah, I mean, big congratulations to them. Like they genuinely are in that conversation of best rugby teams we've seen in international rugby. Like you can't, I mean, it's hard to argue 33 wins in a row and a World Cup, and just the dominance of the wins. Like it just never really looked like they were any close to losing. Even in this final, there were some moments where it looked like, oh, I mean, what's happening here? Like, Bottoman had a stupid yellow card and things like that as well. But they were able to control the game. So, big congratulations to them. Congratulations to Canada as well for coming second. I think that's obviously an achievement in itself. But England are definitely the leaders of the world. And it's just tough to see how anyone's going to make that gap in 4 years.
Yeah, I unfortunately didn't watch the game live, but
Yeah.
I picked up some highlights. Interesting on England being 34, 33 games unbeaten. I think if you add a 31 to that, they 65 games, they've only lost one.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. So 2 World Cup cycles, 8 years ish, like
Yeah.
7, 8 years, they've lost one game, and that was a World Cup final. So um yeah. I stand by what I said. The only side that can push England and possibly beat them in during this year, I think, were France. And France got taken out by
By
Canada. Like
France.
they weren't, yeah, they weren't at the races in the game. Just leading up to the big game that they were more focused on.
Mm.
Canada, yeah, for semi-pro stroke completely amateur side, it's ridiculous what they've done. And it was quite clear, you're right, like it's quite clear what their game plan was and where their strengths were. So once you start putting pressure on those strengths and forcing them into doubting things and thinking like they're not going to get through, it really changes your mental approach and your psyche a bit. But England they've got an all-court game. Like everyone talks about their forwards. Their forwards dominate everything. But what they don't talk about often is their defense and how deadly their backline are. Like
Mm.
they don't just have a backline that scores because their forwards are good. They have a backline that scores because they've got ridiculously good players.
Yeah.
Like Ellie's just ridiculous how fast she
Another
is.
ridiculous try. Yeah.
It's wild. So yeah, it's just a sort of a, a match too far for Canada, but that doesn't take anything away from how they've made a World Cup final on crowdfunding their way to the tournament and then still going on to make the final, which is crazy. And to beat France along the way, I think is
New
huge.
Zealand, you mean?
Sorry, New Zealand.
Yeah.
Well, France, yeah, my bad. My France lost to England.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, forgive me for that. But I still stand by, I think the only team that could be competitive against England in a final would have been France.
Yeah.
And like it's such a pity that it worked out that way because they probably would have faced each other in the final. And just being the final and being England's only place that they've really fallen apart in the last 64 games, is probably what France needed as well. But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll go back to Canada. Like, what an unbelievable. It's going to be. This is the kind of story and tournament that in the next World Cup cycle and the one after that, there will be players coming through to be like, I watched that tournament in England and they inspired me to
Hmm.
make this move to rugby.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, a sold out Twickenham. So I think it was the second highest attendance for a World Cup final, men's or women, because I think the first one was the 2003 Rugby World Cup, the main World Cup in Sydney. Like highest attendance for a women's game in general, like just a packed Twickenham, 80,000 people. Obviously, I think we've talked about a few times about just the different vibes in a women's game than the men's game. So it's obviously a lot more sort of like family friendly. And as I think there was some stats that World Rugby had that like, I think it's over 50% of people that went to the World Cup were watching a game for the first time, just any men's or women's rugby game. And they want to come, a lot of them want to come back. So it's just I hope for everyone's sake that all these teams and World Rugby and whoever just build on this momentum. I think I like what Six Nations did this week. This week, they announced all these Six Nations games this week, and they were just like, "Hey, you like these girls, so you can watch them next year when they come and play in the Six Nations." I think Ireland is playing one in the Viva, Wales is playing in Millennium Stadium, England's playing in Twickenham. So everyone is trying to sort of get up there and hopefully like I think the fact that England has been so good should be actually motivation to teams and not just them being like, well, what's the use? Like, build those, have those big blockbuster games. Like, your teams can fill them up, I think, for most of the top 10 teams. Build that professional league, like give professional contracts to at the very least 30, 40, 50 of the players. And you'll see these results start coming start coming to your team as well.
Yeah, like if we just had to focus on three spaces, like if Canada Rugby focused on the women's game, there's no doubt that they will be competitive. So there's that. If South African Rugby focused on the women's game, there's no doubt we'll be competitive. And then the women's game as a whole, like World Rugby saw what the women's game brought. Like there were records broken weekly. There
Yeah.
were, whether they were attendance or TV, like it was crazy. The vibes were different and great. Like there's opportunity. Just scratching the surface, those three opportunities are huge. Like it if you can't take this and move it a little bit forward in the next 2 years, then you failed.
Yeah. Also, just congratulations to Sophie de Goede. She wins World Rugby Player of the Year. Braxton Saracen-McGee also wins Breakthrough Player of the Year as well. Yeah, obviously well deserved. De Goede has just been fantastic. Yeah, and we get to see them play in another World Cup cycle. I mean, they're both in their well, Saracen-McGee's still in their teens. De Goede, I think, is 26, so she will definitely, yeah, should be still good enough to play in the next 4 years as well.
They need to find another captain. If she's not playing, they need to find a captain, they need to find a lock, they need to find a game breaker, and they need to find a kicker. So she has to stay for the next World Cup.
Yeah, 4-1 basically. Yeah, another sort of quick hit is Chile. They qualified for the World Cup. They beat Samoa. I actually watched that game. Really entertaining game and just awesome atmosphere in the stadium in Santiago as well. Like, just yeah, again, like just another place where you just like if World Rugby can't capitalize on what's happening in South America with rugby at the moment, they failed. But I mean, Samoa's under pressure now. They now get to their last chance where they have to win that tournament in November in Dubai.
ABF.
Yeah, like I mean, obviously, like there's so many fail safes for like the teams in the Pacific Nations Cup. You essentially have like three chances to qualify. But yeah, they need to sort that out. But good for Chile. I mean, this is now their second World Cup. Pablo Lemoyne, their their coach has really just made a good sort of like organization, a system around it. Like they actually have a competitive team. Super Rugby Americas has worked for them. Like they have something there that they and are growing in competitiveness. So hopefully now in the next 2 years they can organize a few games and friendlies against like tier one nations and start improving as well.
Yeah, I just laugh at like those Pacific Nations Cup. Like, I think didn't the top three in the tournament qualify for the World Cup, and then and it's only like a 5 or 6 man tournament anyway, and then other teams have
So
other
everyone,
pathways.
everyone but sixth place qualified
Yeah.
automatically.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. But it's weird. You're right on the Southern Hemisphere game. The irony is the Northern Hemisphere is struggling a little bit. Like the
Mm.
MLR are losing teams almost weekly. The guys are
Mm.
folding. But then the Southern Hemisphere, like Super Rugby's America, I believe they want to add another team to their
Yeah.
tournament. So like it seems like the focus was a little bit too high and the focus needs to be brought down lower. But it's not going to be for a while with the USA hosting a World Cup soon, so is what it is.
And then, yeah, Sean, just quickly on the URC front, I mean, so much rugby you have to go through this weekend. So, decent weekend, I think, for the South African teams. I mean, I think the headline is obviously what the Stormers did to Leinster. I know you watched the game, 35 points to nil. I mean, I think before in the podcast before that, we were saying like, look, this is a competitive Leinster team. This could be a game of the weekend. What happened?
I think the key is to get Leinster early to travel. That's probably where it is. Like they haven't had a chance to work on anything. It was so it's weird. Like it wasn't. I'm trying to think now. It didn't look like Leinster were not going to be able to score. Like you watch games where you're like, if they get a point today, they'll be lucky. Not Leinster, just when you watch teams, and you kind of watch them and you're like, they can score, like they can do something, but you're on edge. And we're so used to having seen that in the past. Like you take a 15, 18 point lead against Leinster, and they end up beating you like 35-18 or something stupid. But it just didn't. It didn't happen, and the Stormers just kept on it, kept the pressure on. Things were working well for them. And Leinster, it was what was probably the most concerning is just Leinster looked like they were trying to cut things with a blunt knife. Like whatever they were doing just wasn't working. And they had quality players. Like they had a lot of test players. They got a few Lions there. Like it's not like it's the Reese Ruddock's son 15. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
not like it's 3, 4, 5 tiers down. Like they're guys that have played Test rugby. They're guys that have played URC and Champions Cup. So yeah, I think they just kind of weren't ready.
Yeah. I mean, so they go now to play the Bulls at Loftus, which is scant reward for that. Bulls dealt with Ospreys and typically high scoring game in that one as well. The Bulls don't do things easily. It's always going to be like a 40-30 or 53-40 in this case. Then the two South African teams that played away, the Sharks lost to Glasgow 35-19. Cardiff beat the Lions 33 points to 20. Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch the games in full. It seemed like just with the Sharks, I mean, they, I guess, kind of similar to what you can say with like Leinster, like they just need those like Springboks or senior players just to give them a bit of structure. Obviously, that Hendricks had 10, they had some good players, and I think they gave Glasgow a good run, I think, for at least the half. But the quality that Glasgow has, obviously, they're former champions themselves, like just told out at the end. Yeah, the Lions, yeah, this is going to be a start of, I think, quite a difficult season, but somewhat encouraging that they were somewhat competitive against Cardiff for a chunk of the game.
Yeah, it's weird. The Sharks really looked like it was copy and paste from last year, which was copy and paste from the year before. So not great news for the Durban fans and the traveling Shark supporters. And I agree on the Lions. This could almost be that season. I suppose we feel that every season you kind of look at their team sheet and you're like, nah, no, maybe they'll cause an upset here and there, but they always seem to pull it through. So maybe we'll be wrong again. But yeah, it looked like a little bit of a tough one. But yeah, it's like you don't see any of them going on a run that will push them in comfortably into the knockouts. Like
Yeah.
when you look at how they performed this week, and you like, yeah, they really need to do better. The Sharks, making the knockouts last year, and then they just put that rubbish there. Um, the other thing is like with the Lions and the Sharks, like you probably find their plan was like, cool, we are away. We're gonna find ourselves first. Like, let's just make sure that we get a couple points here and there, and then we focus on home. The problem with both the Lions and the Sharks, they have the ability to just crumble at home as well. It's not
Yeah.
like home is a fortress,
Mhm.
and that's probably where they need to focus on. And we'll only know that in the next 5, 6 weeks.
Yeah. So this weekend, we start with the Stormers hosting Ospreys on Friday night, and then in the 9 o'clock game, the Sharks are away at the Dragons. So yeah, obviously that should be a game that the Sharks try to win or should win. Stormers obviously they have a bit of a bogey against Ospreys, but yeah, I mean that should be something that they turn around on, starting from last week's game. Then the Saturday games for the South African teams are Bulls against Leinster at Loftus, and then on Sunday, Lions are being hosted by Zebre. So yeah, obviously Zebre's been improving the last season or so, so that could be a quite a tricky game. Yeah, another thing is just noting that the Edinburgh Ulster game will move forward because of a storm warning. So there's apparently like just a big sort of storm heading to Scotland this evening, so they move the game a bit forward so they can try to avoid the worst of it. And yeah, so other games are Connacht hosting Scarlets, Benetton hosting Glasgow, and Munster hosting Cardiff. So yeah, obviously a full URC weekend to add to what's happening in the Prem and the top 14 and the NPC and all other competitions as well.
Yeah, you look at the South African sides this weekend, you would be expecting three sides to win and hopefully the Bulls win against Leinster. Like you look at that and you kind of like, I can see the Stormers winning, I can see the Sharks winning at Dragons, and I can see the Lions beating Zebre. Like
Oh, you
you
think the
can
Bulls are the ones that are the most under threat? I would say
when
it's
you
probably, I think I probably think
when you
Lions.
look at those fixtures, you're like, I can see three wins.
Yeah.
But the Bulls should be able to beat Leinster, especially how they performed last week. Like
No.
we could get four wins, but you probably find the Bulls are going to win, Stormers are going to win, and the Sharks are going to have like a 12-3 battle in Wales.
Yeah, look, nothing is promised, especially with the Sharks these days. So we'll see. I mean, yeah, it's on paper still a really good team. Like it's not like they really are desperate for the Springboks. I mean, they still have a few people that or players that are sort of on the edges of the Springbok team with like the Hendrikses and and the Chitukas. Like, it's still quality there. And I mean, we were talking about it last week, I think, on the WhatsApp group. We were shocked to see Matanzima and Marvin Ori playing for them. You're like, oh wow, those are good additions. That make a lot of sense. So there's still enough there. So it should be hopefully that the Sharks can beat the Dragons and can sort of get their competition going. But yeah, it's nice to at least the one nice thing from this weekend is that Leinster are at the bottom of the table. So I think everyone can rejoice about that.
I'll tell you something. I think Ori is a great signing for the Sharks,
They've been
especially because
struggling
he's
with
not
him.
going to be, yeah, he's not going to be involved in the books, but like he'll help them shore up that line out and their forward side a little bit more. And then I know I said on the WhatsApp group that I didn't think Ori played URC for the Bulls, but I forgot he played for the Bulls back in the day when they played for Super Rugby. So he has. He's played big rugby for all the franchises.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think Ori's actually a great signing, and Mutton Zima, both of them. I was like, I looked at the team sheets and I'm like, I'm so confused. I really am confused. I didn't see this coming. I clearly wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. I see Adolf van der Merwe is going to play fullback, so that's going to be really exciting to watch this.
Um, and then Jaden playing 10 last week. I saw someone on social has been like, cool, this year he predicts that Plum's going to play one person out of position every week.
So that's we two for two now. So we'll
Yeah.
have to see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, I think this weekend will be quite interesting. Yeah, Sean, I think that is everything. I don't know if there's anything from the Prem. I just want to mention just on because I was watching the Northampton Exeter game. Crazy game. So I mean, I was just like flicking through the channels on Sunday, was like, oh, okay, Northampton Exeter's playing. Then Northampton, which obviously were 33-7 up. I literally almost shut down like my computers. Like, okay, cool. Northampton has won this game. Exeter still have a lot to do. Icky Tao, Hooper, and those boys have a lot to work on when they come here. And then I just saw Exeter score the first try, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Let's just sort of stay here for a few minutes, and then literally they come back to draw the game. Like, just an insane game there. I mean, look,
Ross Vincent,
yes,
unbelievable performance again.
yeah,
He always does it. Whether he comes off the bench, like he does something just mad, but he grafts hard. Like he deserves everything he gets, eh? Whether it's test caps or prem wins, he deserves it all.
yeah. No, he played really well. Faber Bosu before he got injured was really good as well on the wing. They have at the 11's name, Brown
Oh,
Bampo.
Paul Brown Bampo.
Yeah,
That
he's
guy,
great.
yeah, but I watched him last season and I'm like, that guy's a raw talent. Like he got these like long striding legs that seem to really run high. Like I don't know how to explain it, but
Yeah,
and he's deadly. Like he's a little bit raw last season and he's got quite a bit to work on, but he will get capped by England. I'm
yeah,
almost sure of it because if he can like, clean up a bit parts of his game, which was done last season, because I watched him in the Prem Rugby Cup last season, and then he broke out into Exeter, and then he was basically first choice on the wing. Like
yeah,
he's definitely gonna get high honors, but he's deadly. Like he's so hard to stop. He's massive and fast, and like he's got this high sort of stride that is really difficult to tackle. But
yeah,
yeah, he's deadly.
yeah. So yeah, I think that was just an insane game. But look, Prem Rugby must watch out. They're going to start getting the reputation that Super Rugby gets because all of their games are like 30 to 30, 31 to 40, all that sort of stuff. Like they're becoming a Super Rugby just on the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, yeah. Very interesting. Bath come from behind win, but Matt Jomo played 10. And if
Yes.
you guys haven't seen it, go just find it on socials or watch the highlights. But he threw the most ridiculous flat skip pass for one of the tries, like an absolute bullet. And then Ollie Lawrence is back, like
Yes.
from an Achilles injury. He played in the preseason and he started the round one and has been named to start round two. So, yeah, quite surprised at how quickly he's on his way back. But yeah,
Yeah, that Bath backline. I mean, they bought Harry Arundel. He scored this weekend. Obviously, Lawrence is now back for the season. Redpath is an option. Jomo can apparently play fly half. They're obviously going to add Finn Russell to this. Like, geez, it's scary. It's really scary, I think, for the rest of the competition. But yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Prem is going to be, I think, quite interesting this year because obviously I think quite a few of the teams have made like good additions. So we'll have to see how it goes. Yeah, I think there's a lot to look forward to. I mean, Sale won, Saracens won as well, Bristol beats Leicester as well. So yeah, just this will be a very interesting season again. For
And
sure.
Newcastle Red Bulls
Ooh,
booting Diamond after like less than a week after the first game is wild.
yeah. I mean, very quickly on that. So Gregor Townsend has now come in as their consultant, but only for 30 days in the year, but only, it won't affect the Scottish job. But, it
Scotland are pro that as well, eh? Like when they re-signed his contract, they were like, you can go and do stuff.
it's
So it's not
such a
like
weird
he did it on the
situation.
sly.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, I don't think it affects his job at Scotland. I mean, look, you're an international coach. There's obviously a lot of dead time in between tournaments, and you can only watch, I mean, you only has two teams to, look at. So there's only so much of Edinburgh and Glasgow he needs to watch to keep up with a lot of his players. So I kind of get, I don't like. I remember when Eddie Jones had like that consultancy role in I think for Santry, right? When he was still coach of England. I don't think it
Yes.
affects your job. It's just a bad look because I don't think. I mean, I think a lot of people in Scotland were probably like, he needs to go. It's obviously past time for Gregor Townsend. It kind of looks like he's securing his job for after the Scotland stint is over.
Yeah. Just inserting himself into the Premiership with his old team and hopefully sort something when he gets booted.
Yeah.
Maybe they've said to him, listen, we're going to put you on like a new contract, but we're going to start working you out. So you've been warned.
Yeah. And I wondered what he actually can add to the team because obviously they still need a day-to-day coach, with Diamond out. So,
Yeah, so I read the press release. Like, there's a new guy coming from somewhere
mm,
on the 1st of November.
okay.
So the current head coach is now overseeing the DOR kind of role, and another guy's come in. And then on the 1st of November, then the head coach will drop down, and then the other guy will come in. And I don't even know where Mr. Scotland fits into the mix. It's wild.
Strategic guidance. That's what this press release said.
Okay, guys, don't lose. Awesome. Where's my check? Thank you. Bye
Newcastle, you have a lot of money. Have you heard of Antoine Dupont?
bye.
The
Yeah.
strategic advice that I would offer.
It's wild. Like, if they did this and they don't have a big name coach lined up, Jake White, then
Oh
it's
gosh.
it's a bit weird. Like, it's such a weird move. Steve Diamond's never held back ever in his life. That is the one thing. So did they like, was this a plan all the way through and they're just like, listen, let's just rather do it now? Or did they say something and he's like, you guys can go all jump because I'm sick of this bullshit? But he's done so much there with so little. It would be so nice to see him do it with some more funds and more hype. Maybe
Yeah.
Red Bull's not his vibe. Maybe he doesn't like energy drinks.
You know, yeah. It's always like they say this even in football. If you sack your manager like in the first month or two of the season, the organization has made a big mistake because
Yes.
surely nothing has changed from the off season to now for you to be like, oh, this guy's the wrong guy for our team. So yeah, something wrong has happened there.
And I believe that it was a Zoom call, and the players were only told
Um,
on the day.
um,
So the one thing that we are guaranteed is we will find out what happened from Steve Diamond's point of view. So I can't wait. That's like
yeah.
popcorn moment.
Yeah, I'm sure what Stick to Rugby or Good Bad at Rugby, I'm sure they'll get that interview and we can get the lowdown very quickly. Sean, yeah, I don't know if there's anything else. I think that's pretty much everything. So yeah, lots of rugby to look forward to this weekend. Rugby Championship, URC, Prem, Top 14. I mean, I think the NPC is also coming to like its last round as well. Pretty too. There's a beef between the Montauban captain and Fabien Gaultier we can maybe get into next week as well. Like, yeah, just a lot. But yeah, you know where to come for rugby updates for this weekend. Please follow us on our social media channels. Please like, share, subscribe to the podcast on YouTube and on Spotify as well. And we'll see you again next week to wrap up the Rugby Championship and anything else that's happening. Bye bye, everyone.
But